Hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm super excited to be here. There's nothing that I love more than walking around and seeing so much fashion, so many accessories, and that last catwalk was absolutely amazing. So pretty, love all the clothes. So my name's Nayha, I'm a TV and radio presenter. I host the official Asian music chart on BBC Asian Network. Super fun job, I get to announce the #1, which is quite cool, and get to go to loads of cool events interviewing some of the biggest celebrities. But mainly I'm here today is because I'm a massive fashion junkie, like probably all of you. And of course, I'm really interested in finding out a little bit more about the recruitment world in fashion. Hence the reason why I've got a special guest today. Now he has got 20 years experience in the fashion business, and he's got 15 years experience in recruitment. So put your hands together for Gerstein.
Thank you.
How are you doing, Ian?
Yes, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable in this chair, you know. My suit's rising up a bit. Fashion problems as always. But how does it feel being back at MODA?
Well, it's changed a lot since I was here. When we used to exhibit, it was very much a more fashion-based show, and now much bigger with jewellery, accessories, homewares, etc. So yeah, but it's good to be back. It hasn't changed that much, I suppose.
So was the reason why you were here before because of your 20 years experience in fashion then?
We were here exhibiting, so I ran my own brand for a number of years. So we would exhibit, and before then I was a sales director for a fashion brand, and again we were here exhibiting. So MODA was always a big part of our year, twice a year, scared what's happening on a Sunday, is everyone going to turn up, etc., etc. Yeah.
Has it changed much since you last came?
I think there's a much wider type of product. We were very much middle market fashion based, and that was mainly who was here. But obviously, as I said, you got jewellery, you got homewares, you got the interconnecting halls, which we didn't have. It was one or two halls of purely fashion then. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit.
Okay, I mean, it's the first time I'm here. It's literally never been to MODA before in my life, and I just think it's incredible. So tell us a little bit about what you do then.
So I'm the managing director of a company called Mandeville Recruitment. We are a fashion and retail recruitment. We also have a hospitality division and a sales division, which is mainly involved in B2B. And we work with large companies, small companies, medium-sized companies, and helping them find the best talent. So that may be for a very wide variety of roles, but hopefully we work with them, we're their recruitment partners to help them really find the best people.
You must work with some sexy brands. Who do you work with?
We work with people like Jimmy Choo, Ralph Lauren, Bulgari, Skechers, Suit Supply, Moss Bros, Laura Ashley, World Duty Free. I can never remember all the clients. We have a lot of very good clients, which we're very proud to partner with. We also partner with a lot of smaller brands that you wouldn't have heard of, but who, you know, it's really important to them to find the right people. And so, yeah, it's really about, as I say, finding the best talent for our clients.
Okay, is it fun working with the bigger brands or the smaller brands, or is that a controversial question?
It's fun working with clients who work with you. So I think that the enjoyment of being in recruitment is the success you have. And if your client walks away really happy, they found the right person, really helping their business. And you'd be surprised, some of the big brands, you think, oh yeah, you recruit for Ralph Lauren, all you have to do is sort of whistle down the high street and everybody wants to work for Ralph Lauren. But it doesn't quite work like that. They're looking for very specialist people who fit into a very particular compartment. So they can be really grateful that you found them the right person. Just as grateful as a small wholesaler is looking for, you know, that salesperson is really going to boost their figures for the year. So it's good when you know you've done a good job.
Like and who's your favourite client that you work with currently?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask
Let's
that.
just hope all your clients aren't here, because they'll be like, you're putting in an order.
I would say, it varies. Each consultant will give you a different answer. I spoke about Ralph. They're one of my favourites because they're actually the first client I brought on when I went into recruitment, and we're still working with them 15 years later. We work for a company called World Duty Free, or you might know them as Do Free, which a lot of you may not have heard of, but they do all the large airport stores. And the fun with them is we work on fashion, we work on jewellery, we work on beauty. We might be, you know, for the confectionery department, for the person who sells the most lint that day or something. So it's a real wide variety of roles, and in head office, a very wide variety as well. So it's, yeah, It's hard to say you've got a favourite, but we like the ones who give us a
At
bit
the
of
moment,
variety.
they're paying the bills.
Yes,
They're a good
the ones who
client.
pay, they're your favourites, yeah.
Okay, so what type of roles do you recruit for? Because I'm sure there's loads of different businesses here, and obviously they've got certain job roles that they potentially might want to recruit for.
So talking mainly about sort of fashion, homewares, luxury, obviously relevant for today. On the fashion side, there's obviously wholesale and retail, and head office and operations. So on the wholesale side, obviously there's the sales force. There'll be the people out in the field that will be looking for. There'll be head office, particularly supply chains. I'm sure you're all aware supply chain has been in massive demand. So is marketing, digital marketing in particular, social media marketing. In store operations, we would be looking at obviously store managers, assistant managers, that type of thing. We have a big demand for language speakers in luxury, so particularly in the luxury stores, they're looking for Chinese speakers. Obviously now there's a big, China's just opened up again, so we're expecting a lot of Chinese visitors coming over, for Arabic speakers. And in head office, merchandising, marketing, as I say, supply chain, finance, anything. We're not great on IT. I think if you're looking for someone to do your coding or something, that's probably not us. It's outside our...
It's not really fashion anyway, really.
Yeah,
it's
a bit outside our remit, and that's a very particular type of role. And we don't really do we'll do like a warehouse manager, but if you're looking for warehouse staff, temp staff, that's not our area either.
Okay, fine. Well, Ian, to be honest, an hour I don't think is enough to cover off recruitment within the fashion industry, really. But I think the first question I want to ask you is, why should a business, a small business, a large business, use a recruitment agency?
Well, my answer to that would be, why wouldn't you, really? I mean, if you have a vacancy, I suppose what you need to think about first is, how much is this hurting me? How much do I need this vacancy filled? If you can wait 6 months, 9 months, however long until you find the absolute right person, then fine. You can probably do that yourself, through your contacts, through social media, whatever, excuse me. But if it's a vacancy that, you can see, if you don't have a good salesperson on your shop floor, or if you don't have someone out there selling your range, or, looking after your supply chain, that is probably costing you thousands of pounds each week. And if that's the case, then you need that filled as soon as possible. And in that case, I'd say come see a good recruitment consultancy. I think that there is a thought that, yeah, it is going to cost you. It's going to cost you thousands of pounds. Whatever your role that you're looking to recruit, it's going to cost you an amount, but it'll probably cost you a lot more if you don't do something about it. So use that as your base. How much is this hurting? If it's hurting, come to the experts.
I think a lot of people, and please tell me if you all agree with me, a lot of people hear the word recruitment agency and they think, oh, this is going to be really expensive. Don't you agree? This is just what they think. They just think it's a service that's just going to cost so much money. But actually, in fact, like you've just said, it will cost people more money for not using an agency because the resources. Plus, as a specialist, can you get hold of passive candidates and candidates that maybe a business might not be able to get hold of?
Well, yes, that's what we do. I mean, our biggest cost as a business is our staff. And after our staff, it's the cost of reaching out, trying to find candidates. So, I mean, you will probably come across, say, Indeed or Reed or Retail Choice or one of those, or Fashion Personnel. We have access to advertising on those. We also have access to their databases, which as a small business wouldn't probably have. Obviously, LinkedIn is a massive recruitment tool. And if you look at most of our consultants, they'll have somewhere between 10 and 20,000 connections on LinkedIn each. So we have access to a very, very wide pool. We also, most of the consultants in the business have been doing it for a while, and they've also been in fashion, so they will have a personal network of candidates. And this is really crucial. The vast majority of people that we place in businesses are not out there sending their CV every week. They are basically what is called passive candidates. And a passive candidate is someone who doesn't really know they're looking until they're approached by a business who goes, you're doing this at the moment. How about doing this for my client? And you start talking to them about it, and you start persuading them that your client is somebody that basically they ought to at least have a chat with, see if you like it. This could be a great role for you. So we're approaching people who aren't really on the market, who other companies aren't really talking to, and we're getting them interested in our clients. and offering them something, hopefully, which is going to be very exciting for them and a real career and life change. That's what we do. In recruitment, put it very simply, you can change people's lives. It's interesting from that point of view. But you're also really helping your client find people they wouldn't see.
Yeah, which is so true. You're like an extension to a business, really, aren't you?
Well, what drives us as a recruitment business and makes us good, to be frank, is that we consider ourselves an extension of the business that we're working for. So we're your recruitment department. We're attached to your HR department if you have one. We need to know your business. If we don't understand how the business works, if we don't talk to the decision maker, if we don't really understand what is it you want, who do you want, what do you want them to do, what's going to make them successful in this, what are the key elements for you, we really need to understand that. If we do, then we can really go out there and find you the right person. So the communication, as I say, being an extension of your business is so important, and I think that's what we do successfully to keep us in business, really.
Okay. So let's talk about the big C, the big P. I'm sure we can all guess what that is. COVID. The pandemic. Mm-hmm. A lot of small businesses suffered, even online businesses. It was such a tough time, especially for retail. So how did it affect the world of recruitment and retail overall?
Well, you still do have that effect. I'm sure we're all aware, and we've read the papers, there is probably around 1 million people less who've left the workforce since the pandemic. Be it people who left the country, go back home during the pandemic, and maybe because of Brexit, or maybe because they found jobs, or whatever reason, just aren't returning. You've got the people who left work early, retired early, who are enjoying the quality of life that they've got and thought, well, I don't need to return to work, why should I? And then you've got other reasons, which I'm sure we'll read about, like long-COVID, and just basically deciding that's a lifestyle of working, for whatever reason, isn't for me. So you have a lot less people out there. You have a lot less candidates you can attract. You have the amount of workforce has shrunk. So that creates opportunities for you as a business. It creates opportunities maybe for looking at people you may have not looked at before. But what it does have, it makes it what we call a candidate-driven market. So the candidate, even the passive candidates that I was talking about earlier, they have a lot more choice. For instance, if we start talking to this passive candidate who's not looking, and we say, go and meet this client, they've got a great job for you, blah, 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 they go along, and a lot of them will start thinking, yeah, you know what, if I can get this job and it gets me a $5,000 raise and whatever, maybe I ought to have a little look around and see who else is offering jobs like this. And there will be those jobs out there. So you've got to be aware as a business looking to recruit that you're in what we used to call in the old days a war for talent, maybe a battle rather than a war. But there are going to be other companies pursuing that candidate. There are going to be other companies who have probably just as good as offering as you. And like everything else, this comes down to a personal connection and you taking the time to get to know the prospective candidate. So it's about the first interview, I'd always say, is a two-way thing. It's the candidate has to sell themselves to the business, and the business has to sell themselves to the candidate. And the other thing is the process. It's really important that the process is clean, slick, organized, professional. If you delay too long, if you take too long, if there's too many decision makers, too many interviews, you have a very good chance of losing the candidate. The other thing we look at is start date, and just be aware. Don't try and push out. As a business, sometimes say, oh, it's really good for me if they start a couple of months from now because that's how our seasons work and we don't really need them before then. The longer you wait, the more likely it is they'll get nabbed by somebody else.
Do you think it's got worse since the pandemic then?
Oh yeah, that bit is counter offers, offers from other companies, that type of thing.
What's a counter offer?
So a counter offer is when you say, well, I'm really fed up with the business I'm working with and I really want to leave and da-da-da-da, and then you get an offer and you go to your boss and say, well, I'm leaving now, this is my resignation, and they say, oh, what's happened? Oh, well, I wasn't happy about this, I wasn't happy about that, and they've offered me another $5,000 or whatever. And the business goes, oh, we're so sorry that you're going to be leaving, so we'll give you the rise, we'll give you the position we want, we'll give you the extra responsibility, we'll give you hybrid working, whatever it may be. And they go, oh, I've got everything I want here, now I'll stay.
So let's talk about hybrid working, as you mentioned it. Obviously, the world is moving to online. It has pretty much already. So how has that affected recruitment and securing talent?
Well, securing talent, I think that a lot of, if you're doing head office, obviously if you're on the shop floor, tough. You can't work from home. It's not possible. It's not going to ever be possible. But if you're working at head office, then majority of companies that we now speak to offer some sort of hybrid model. I think the total work from home we're moving away from that. So obviously during that time, people could work from home 5 days a week in some circumstances, but there really has been a move away from that to a hybrid model. Usually 3 days in the office, 2 days from home is seen as a...
Is that what a lot of your fashion clients are working to at the moment?
Say, yeah, and not only in fashion, but right across the board.
So do you feel for businesses that are recruiting for themselves, smaller businesses, they should offer flexibility then for talent that comes in?
If they can, yes. I think there is an expectation from the workforce now that that's what they should be offered. And the other thing, just on the same sort of thing, is the benefits that you offer. Look at those. They're not just, we do a standard pension, we do that. Even for smaller business, there is an expectation, especially, probably maybe I shouldn't say this, from younger candidates, that there's a little bit more that goes into the entire package.
Right, because everyone bought a dog during lockdown, so they need to stay at home to look after the puppy.
Yes, we do get better at that, I have to say. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So with hybrid working as well comes training and development. So, how do businesses do that, especially with having talent working from home?
Obviously online Zoom calls and Teams and all the rest of it for online training. I do think it's difficult, and quite a few businesses that we work with say, okay, for the first 3 months, we want you in the office 4 or 5 days a week. And then after that time, you'll be fully trained, you'll understand how we work, you'll understand our systems a lot better, you can then go to hybrid. And I think that that's quite a good way of going about things. I think also have a good plan of how you want to onboard somebody. Not just, we'll stick them next to Fred and he'll look after them, but actually a structured training program. It doesn't take much, but if you put the effort into onboarding that person, it makes a massive difference to how welcome they feel. So don't forget, to some extent, they'll still be being approached during that first month where they're with you. They won't know for certain that they're happy where they are. They'll still, and the agencies who were maybe pursuing them before they accepted the offer with you will probably still try and knock on their door, especially for the first month. So make them happy, make them secure, make them feel like, that you're really welcome here and you've taken the effort to onboard them.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you the big question, which I'm sure a lot of people want to know the answer to, and you might be sharing your gems. I don't know if they'll be able to do it behind the scenes, but how do you find the right candidate for a business, especially smaller businesses maybe as well?
It comes back to what I said earlier, really, about being their partner. And I think it's really key that the process is really good. And by the process, I mean really from the day that we get asked to do the job. So we talk about the person called the decision maker. And the decision maker at the end of the day is, if you like, is the one who writes the check. So it's not just who has the power to appoint this person. And that's really important for us. If we're talking to them, the person who has sign-off is the one who makes the final decision. And we need to understand that person's mindset. Now, there may be two decision makers, there often are. There may be like a chairman of a business and the MD says, well, I want a new sales person, and I need somebody who could go out there and get new accounts and really help boost our sales for next year. And the chairman, that sounds great to me, but as long as they fit in with the team, that will really suit me. So the chairman may do the final interview, and the MD's doing the other interviews. But when it gets to final interview, the chairman goes, I wanted a steady Eddie, someone who's got loads of experience, someone who can, build new business with existing accounts rather than someone who is going to go out doing loads of new business. But meanwhile, the MD's been thinking about sort of maybe someone less experienced who he can train up and who's going to be a real new business animal. So you have to make sure that those decision makers are online, because otherwise you get a great candidate for the MD, he gets to the chairman and he goes, this isn't for me. And you have to start the whole process over again. So having real clarity from the decision maker or decision makers is really important. Without that clarity, it's very hard to find the right person.
Okay, so you've got the clarity, you know what you're looking for, you've spoken to the business owner, MD, or whoever it is.
Yeah.
Then what do you do? What do recruiters do?
Okay, well, the first thing we have to do, just take that back a bit, is agree the process. So usually, when do you want this person to start? What's the interview process? And work with the business so that they have an efficient interview process. Some have, we'll have 4 interviews, we'll send them out for a day here, a day there. It could be too much. Make it clean, make it efficient, make sure it works for both sides. Then it is, as I indicated earlier, a really wide range of things you do. The first thing really is we look at that job, say, okay, where have we done this before? Who have we recruited for that's similar? Where can we go in our network to find these people? Where do we advertise this? Where do we search? So we will, the consultant who is basically in charge of the account manager, will basically, if you like, throw the kitchen sink at it, really look at many different areas without also, this stage will be confidential. So the name of the client will not be on any adverts. Often the searches will be confidential. We're just trying to see what type of talent pool there is out there, whether we definitely got it in the right salary bracket, whether we, what's out there in the area, and be able to go back to our client and say, right, these are the type of people we're finding, this is the sort of salary bracket, et cetera, and then once having agreed that and basically ascertain what the market is, we then really look to get a short list of candidates, maybe 3 at most, 4 at a push, that we put in front of the client.
So you wouldn't advise if, let's just say, for example, a business wanted to recruit on their own without a recruitment agency to maybe interview 10 or 15 people?
Well, if you think each interview takes about an hour, if you're interviewing a dozen people, that's a dozen hours of your time, plus the preparation, plus the reading the CVs, plus trawling through, God knows, hundreds of applicants you've got. That time that you've wasted on if there's a decision maker is probably quite a highly paid person, is an awful lot of time. So you have to equate whether it is worth your time or whatever cost that may be, rather than going to somebody who's also an expert in the field and can spot a good candidate probably better
So
than you
where
can.
do you look for fashion candidates then?
In terms of job boards or in terms of other companies, or
How do you do it?
How do
you find the fashion talent?
well, once we've advertised or searched or trawled or found, basically got if you like, a collection of CVs, if I can put it in that front, it's about interviewing that candidate. And that we would spend 40, 45 minutes really with what's called competency-based questions, which are very specific to getting into how they work, what they do, how they go about doing things, giving examples of their work. And it's a real... a proper intensive interview of that
Where
candidate.
do you find them? Do you get them on social media? Do you find them
Oh,
on
everywhere.
job
Sorry,
boards?
everywhere. So they may be answering, it could be anywhere. I mean, we get about 20% come from answering adverts, about 20% will come from databases, 20% might come from LinkedIn, 20% come from personal networks, and 20% probably come from, just literally headhunting out of competitors.
Oh, you headhunt from competitors as well?
Yeah, if we're specifically, we are asked sometimes, look, I really like someone from this business. Can you get me someone from there? And we go, yeah, okay, we'll give it a go.
And has the application become less through adverts now since the pandemic? Or because I know a lot of smaller businesses like to advertise on Indeed, you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, so Indeed is very popular, but you get an awful lot of
Rubbish.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, you get a lot of non-relevant CVs. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
And it is also, the adverts stay live on Indeed for a very long time, which some of the other job boards have time limits, but Indeed doesn't. There's nothing wrong with Indeed. It is, a brilliant shop window. But if you want a specific type of person, for me, it's very time-consuming. It's, and that's what we're here for. Again, it's a matter of time. We take up your time. But they will come through many, through many different sources, really.
Okay. So let's talk about the job spec then. Maybe smaller businesses want to advertise themselves on Indeed, or maybe they want to write their own job specs internally. Should we start off with the advert first? What should an advert look like to attract retail and fashion clients?
I think if you're looking... you've got to remember, most people who read an advert, and a lot of people they are doing ads, it's from an app that they have on their phone. They've downloaded Indeed or a general app for job responses. So it's very quick. They'll read the first 4, 5, 6 lines or whatever, and they will then go. So you have to have a very quick headline at the top, What is it you want? What makes it a bit sexy? What is it about your company? Few lines on your company, brief description of the job. You can go into more detail below that, but you've got to remember that 80% of people don't read it.
Oh, okay. Why do you think 80% don't read it?
Because when we talk to them, they haven't read it.
Oh, okay, fine.
Fair
enough then.
They've read the first couple of paragraphs.
But how do you make it sexy to attract good talent?
Well, what is good about your business? That's it, quite simply. I mean, and about this role, what is it? So, you know, if you are, say you're looking for a salesperson, you've got a successful business, you're looking for a regional sales rep or something along those lines, I mean, you can put regional sales rep wanted by a successful business. That's pretty basic, but it says, you know, it does what it says on the tin, but try and make the business sound a little bit, you know, for Northwest area, you put on a piece, we're a very successful business with a wide range of existing clients. We're looking to grow the business with those clients and attract new business as well. We've been established for 20 years. We have a great range of merchandise, and we're really looking for someone who can help take us to the next level. Something along those lines, which gives you a good overview of what the business is, but it goes, you know what, there is something here for me to get interested in.
Okay. And how would you say you would start to write an actual job spec internally for a business?
Jot down bullet points. What does this job actually do? So what do I want this person to do? How do they go about doing it? Who do they report for? And really importantly, which is often left off in job specs, what are the most important things I want this person to have done? And that for us as recruiters is the most important thing. Give me 5 things that this person needs to do in your business. What is going to make you in a year's time go, yeah, I'm so glad I made this hire because they've done this, they've done this, they've done that, they've done that. Wow, that was, we did well finding that person. If you can get that into a job spec, you'll find success.
And how important is it also through the interview process too? Because I know before in the past, whenever I've gone for a job and I've had a job spec, it helps you, to just write down your notes on your experience as well. So
it helps the candidate because the candidate can then really understand what you want, and when they're talking to you, they can really give you those examples. It's a bit like, if you were, I say to candidates, if you're sort of blindfolded and you're in an archery contest, you can shoot your arrow vaguely in that direction. You'd have no idea whether it hits the bullseye. You could be giving out loads of examples, but those aren't the examples that the employer wants to hear. If you have a good idea of what the employer wants, you can really show them your experience matches what they're looking for.
Okay. Now, I know there's a perception normally that recruitment companies are expensive, they're scary, we don't want to work with them, we don't use any agencies or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. How do you work with your clients in partnership to be able to secure good talent for those who haven't used a recruitment agency before?
So we're not just about finding you the talent, we're about helping you understand what the market is like, what salary levels are, what other people are doing in the market, so we can give you information, obviously nothing confidential, but information about what's going on out there that you may not see. So, as I said, we're an extension of your business. So we talk to our clients about, how, for instance, digital marketing, which I mentioned earlier, has probably seen the greatest percentage salary rise in the last year than any other part of the industry. So if you think, well, I'm paying my digital marketer $35,000, if I need to find a replacement, I need to find $35,000. It's like, well, actually no, because salaries have gone up probably 20-25% since then.
Since the pandemic, do you think?
For that type of role, yes, because we didn't have digital marketers much, and then all of a sudden everyone's doing e-commerce, or they need to create e-commerce, or they need to improve their website, or they need to get onto social media. And it's no longer a nice little option, it's necessary. So there weren't that many people with 3, 4, 5 years experience of that type of role. So obviously they're able to, supply and demand. You're able to charge more money for your services.
Okay. And I know this is some sort of perception, or it might just be mine because I don't really know your world that well, about recruitment agencies being quite far away from the client. It's about partnership and working together, isn't it?
It has to. If we considered our clients to be, we're in it to make a quick buck, as it were, we wouldn't have any business. As I said, my first client was Ralph Lauren. That was 15 years ago. They're still with us. And in the hospitality and leisure side, my second client was View Cinemas, who you might know. And they're still with us as a
Oh, you
as a
recruit
club.
for View Cinemas?
As a business, we do, yes.
Do you get free cinema tickets?
Every now and again.
Anyone that wants free cinema tickets,
No.
wait at the end.
No.
We'll try and get Ian to sort that one out for us.
I'd love to. Thank you, Nayha, for putting me in that.
That's
but no.
okay, no worries.
Yeah, so if we weren't, we wouldn't have a business. Not every client stays with you forever. Things change. But in a lot of the clients are with us a long time. And even clients that may only have 1 or 2 vacancies a year, that's fine, that's great. They're clients, they're important to us. So if you're not getting that service, yeah, well, I would say this, if you're not getting that service, look for another recruitment consultancy, because you should be getting that.
Okay. So you've done the sourcing, you've done the advert, you've done the job spec. Okay. The candidate's now been offered the job role. It's a long way to go until the candidate starts anyway. So what do you do as a recruiter, and what can smaller businesses and larger businesses do to secure talent to get them over the line?
Stay in touch is the biggest thing. So, as I said, even you got that notice period, could be a month. In some cases, it's 3 months for more senior roles. That's a long time. Now, some people, they think, great, sorted my job out, got my new career, starting in May, don't have to worry about it, turn off the app, I'm not looking at LinkedIn, I'm really happy. And that's great. But you still have to stay in touch with them to make sure that that's the case. If you're a business, I'd invite them, if you're having a company night out or an open day or something like that, invite them along. They may not have joined you, but it's really important that they feel part of the team. As a recruitment business, we stay in touch, we get them talking to the other side. We say, I know you've got 3 months, so why don't we set up a chat with your line manager during that time so that you can see how the business is doing and how it's developing. Ideally, and this probably won't be a popular thing to say, we do try and ask them to try and get their notice period down, because it's, the other side is, do you really want to be working, if you're a candidate and you've got 3 months notice, you've taken a new job, you're really excited, you're going to be going to a new business that you really want to go to. Do you really want to be sitting in your existing business for that length of time? You're not going to give your best. If you talk to your boss and say, look, I know it's 3 months, can I work for 6 weeks? I'll give you everything I've got for 6 weeks, I'll be really enthusiastic, and then after that, it's enough time to hand over, that should be sufficient. So we do work on that as well.
Okay, because it's a long process, isn't it, before they get started?
Yeah.
What about clients and smaller businesses that have the saying where they say, oh, but if they're interested in my business, then they'll start. Make them wait 3 months.
Yeah, and there is a point to that, but there are also a lot of other good businesses out there. And the thing is that it's as I said earlier, it's a very competitive market. There are a shortage of good candidates, as I said, candidate-driven. So as much as I love your business, and I will, because as I said, we'll fill part of your business, you have to be realistic and realize that there's a lot of predators out there, and the candidate's going to be feeling around. If they'll come for me for that, maybe someone else will come for me for a little bit more.
So I think the thing to take away from that is that there is always going to be a better, bigger, shinier business out there. You just need to make sure that you work with your recruitment partner or your internal recruitment team in the business to...
Yeah, not always. It's not
started.
always, but you have to act as if there is and act on that perception. Yeah.
Okay, fine, fair enough then. And obviously securing talent in the fashion recruitment world, is it a lot harder now since the pandemic, would you say?
It's always difficult. I don't think that, if the balance is with the client and then the client is being, very fussy, they want this, they want that, they want the other, and quite rightly too, it's their business. If it's candidate driven, then you got the side where the candidate's got all the choices. So I don't think it's necessarily harder. I just think you have to have different skill sets. Excuse me. There's different focus. So the focus shifts one way or the other, and you just have to be aware of that, which is why if you've got consultants that have been in fashion for quite a few years, who understand the market, that's really important as well.
Okay. So what advice and tips would you give to smaller businesses and retailers and wholesalers as well on the main headlines and how to secure good talent?
Well, from a recruitment point of view, or from using a consultancy, I'd say number one, choose your consultancy carefully. Do make sure you're getting that partnership element. Listen to what they have to say. As I said, we're your partners. We have your best interests at heart. So look at the process. I suppose to some extent, and the other thing to remember, there are no unicorns out there.
There are no what? Unicorns?
No unicorns. Good recruitment phrase. There are no, in essence, the perfect candidate, 100% perfect, doesn't exist. There's always going to be a happy
So then what's the
compromise.
point using a recruitment agency and paying money if you can't find a unicorn?
If I can't find a
you're paying
unicorn.
money, you want a unicorn, right?
Well, we can find you a 95% unicorn, but not perhaps 100%.
I already worked 100%, Ian, I'm afraid.
Well, you could be waiting a very long time. That's the thing. Time. You have to balance, again, goes back to how much is this vacancy hurting you. You can find the perfect candidate if you're willing to wait a very long time for one. But it's usually, and we would advise, better, take someone who's 90-95%, give them that extra bit of training that turns them into, and you've got that room as well to improve somebody. If somebody comes to your business and they're absolutely perfect in it, you've almost got to ask yourself, well, if they're so good and so right for the role, why are they taking that role? Because they'll probably be bored by it, because they've already got all the skill sets to enable them to be great at that role. So they'd be probably thinking, well, actually, what can I do that's going to stretch me? Where's the next level? And if you can't offer them the next level, then the chances are that unicorn's going to be off in 6 months. Whereas the one who's going to be stretched, who's got all the talent, perhaps hasn't had it taken, trained out of them, is going to last that bit longer, and is going to really appreciate the time and the effort you put into making them a better person.
And what about salaries? What advice can you give businesses on salaries? Because sounds like salaries have shot up since the pandemic.
The salaries have gone up. Obviously, the cost of living, inflation, everything else. Salaries are important to an extent. So you have to be in the right band. And we will give you the market advice, and we'll say to you, you need to be between this figure and that figure. All right, and sometimes we go, oh, I can't pay. That's what you've got to pay. And there's probably little wriggle room in that. However, once you're in that band, sometimes money isn't that important. Not everybody moves for money. In fact, if you look at the surveys, the main reason why people leave jobs is because of their boss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like...
Are you a nice boss, Ian?
Yeah, I'm wonderful, yeah.
Okay, great. I'll ask the team at Mandeville then.
Yes, you can. I would say it's somewhere around 40 to 50% leave because they feel their boss doesn't appreciate them. They're not getting the training, they're not getting the stretch, they can't the career prospects. All comes down to that communication with their boss. So if you offer them more money, that's nice, but it isn't going to be their main driver. The main driver is to, it's a bit of a cliche, is to feel loved and appreciated. That they could do somewhere where they'll enjoy being, people they enjoy working with, a line manager who's going to appreciate them and help them develop and become, better person, better employee, however you want to do it. Training is so important. And there's so many, I have to say one thing, there are so many businesses, recruitment businesses invest a lot in training. Our staff have training every week. They go to seminars. We have specialist trainers who come in and teach them about how different do things, and it's really, really important within the recruitment industry. It still amazes me how little training some businesses give to their managers. Management training is vitally important to help you keep your staff.
Okay. And what is it like in retail and fashion at the moment from your experience working with your clients? Are the managers getting training or?
Some do, some don't. And that's
you're
probably
going to
as much as...
You're going to give us any gems, any
no,
names?
No, I'm not giving any names, but some are very good at it and some, aren't.
So that's really important. You mentioned time quite a lot during this chat as well, about time being so important with regards to speed and getting things over the line. So would you say that's also a bit of advice since the pandemic to give to these businesses?
I think always in recruitment, I think that candidates aren't going to hang around. And also for your recruiter, your recruiters say he, she is doing a job for you. They've gone to the trouble of finding you 3 great candidates. They put those candidates in front of you, and then they get radio silence. And I know the recruitment may not always be, obviously, the most important thing. You've got a range to get out, you've got stuff to get on the shop floor, you've got to worry about the shipment coming from China or whatever it may be. But it is up there. It is one of those things you're looking to get done. Now, if that recruiter doesn't hear back from you, they're thinking, did they really care? Are they that interested? And recruiters by nature are impatient people. That's just how we are, because it's really important. This is what we do for a living. We find people. So obviously we want an answer pretty quickly, and we can be a bit too impatient. But if we don't hear, we'll start ringing, we'll start sending emails, we'll start nagging. Just communicate really well with that recruiter.
Is that why recruiters have a perception of being pushy?
Yes.
Anyone else heard that, right? Where recruiters are pushy and then they keep calling and everything. Is that why? It's because actually it's for the candidate. It's for them.
If we don't do that, we've put 3 great candidates. We get a call a week later going, yeah, I love the look of those candidates. Well, sorry, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And in a week, that will happen. They'll be gone. They'll be going somewhere else. They'll have lost interest in your business. They'll be on second stage with somebody. And then when you're asking them to do that little project you want them to do as the second stage, or write us up how your 30, 60, 90 days is going to look, they won't be bothered. They'll be going, well, actually, you know what? I'm already at second stage with 2 other businesses, so I can't be bothered to do this for you guys.
Okay.
You took a week to come back to me, and these other guys called me the next day, so why shouldn't I?
So how should a interview process look as well for retail and wholesalers and in fashion?
It varies with the business, but I'm a firm believer in 2 stages.
2 stages,
At
2
least.
interview stages.
Yeah, I think that you could do this day and age, you could do the first stage by Zoom if you wish. That makes it really convenient. You get a good idea of that person. I would go heavily into their experience, what they've done, what their skill sets are, get them to ask questions of you, and really, so they really understand your business. Second interview, get them into head office or wherever they're going to be working, get them to meet the team, get them to see where they could be seated, and really get to know them as a person. When you join a business, this is where we spend the majority of our waking hours. And if you get someone who you don't like, it can come down to as simple as that, really. Yeah, they're great at their job, but boy, it really grates on my nerves as a person. You don't really want them grating up against everybody in your office. So it's really important to get to know them. I mean, as recruiters, we love it when someone says one stage, we'll just have a chat with them if we like them, we'll hire them. That's great because, it makes the process really quick and we like it. But you do worry, have you done enough to really make sure that person's going to stay with you? So I'd always recommend 2 stages. 3 stages are a bit of a pain. I think you should try and get everything done in a 2-stage process. So if you say, well, the chairman's got to have sign off, well, the chairman can see them at second stage after everybody else has. Why not?
And from your experience dealing with your fashion brands and your fashion retailers and clients, do they get the candidates to do any extra steps in the interview process? For example, like presentations, like how do you set certain goals and tasks to make sure you've got the right candidate?
Depends on the role. If you're going supply chain, they want to know you're good at Excel or something like that. And if it's a more junior role, you might say, well, send out, there's lots of different links you can send and get them to do a couple of Excel spreadsheets or a small task to make sure they've got the competencies that they should have. As I said before, you can look at 30, 60, 90-day plans. Really depends on the role. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on the business. I wouldn't put a hard and fast rule in there. I think it depends on the business, what they're looking for, and the role that it is. But I think that it's useful, but don't go too far.
Okay.
Don't expect bells and whistles. They're not presenters. They are, people doing a job.
Yeah.
So unless that presentation is going to be part of their role, then I'd tone it down a bit.
Keep it simpler.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, thank you so much, Ian. I feel like I've had such a good insight. I hope everyone else has on what the world of recruitment's like at the moment. Now, there is going to be a chance for some of you to ask whatever questions you want. Be as direct as you want to be. I'm going to kick it off with the first question. How much does it cost to have a recruitment agency? What's the price? Is it price of a designer handbag? Like, what is it?
Well, it depends on your designer handbag, I suppose.
Yeah.
As I said, it does vary. And
oh, such a politician answer. It does vary.
And all recruitment consultancies will negotiate. I will say that. They'll send you standard terms and they'll have anything in there. What we normally charge is what we're a contingency agency, which means that we don't charge you anything up front. There's no retainer. We only charge we send you an invoice on the day the person starts. Okay? And if they don't start, obviously you don't get an invoice. We charge a percentage of salary. Sometimes it'll be salary if there's and plus car allowance if you put in a car allowance or something.
Okay, so a visual merchandiser, what would an average salary be?
In store, let's say 30,000.
30k.
Yeah.
So then what percentage would you charge of that 30k?
Well, that depends on the business. So it will vary. So if there's a lot of repeat roles or it's an existing client, as a guideline, I'd say anywhere between 15 and 20%.
Okay, between 15 and 20%.
Yeah.
So then let's just say, easy maths, 20%.
4,500 is 15%.
You're so good at maths, aren't you?
Well, yeah, it's part of the business.
That was very quick. Okay, so £4,500 to hire a person. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. And do most businesses have recruitment budgets anyway that they can...
They will do, some of the bigger guys particularly, because they know they will always have a constant need for recruiters. So they will set themselves a budget. What they are, they never tell us. And usually find out if the financial year ends in March, that recruitment slows down in March until they get the new budget in April. But in general, it's a needs must situation.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Right, I'm going to open it to the floor. If anybody would like to ask a question, go for it. What's your name? Hello. That's fine. I'm going to come on over because I think it's always best to do that. It's nice actually to have a little stretch. My legs are actually dying a little bit over there, you know. I think my boots aren't a bit comfortable, but with fashion, you just got to kind of, you know, there you go.
Hi, I'm Louise. I'm course leader for fashion at Wolverhampton University. And what I just wanted to ask was, what do you find most fashion recruiters are looking for in candidates today? What key skills and behaviours are they looking for?
A passion about the business. So if they're not passionate about fashion, about the business that we're recruiting for, so they may not know the brand, but then what we do with everybody, I probably should have said earlier, is before we even send their CV out, after we've done a bit of an interview with them, we ask them to go and research the brand and then come back and report to us. The other thing we do as well, which is, by the by, is we ask them for GDPR, which is proof of ability to work in the UK, which is obviously very necessary as well. I should put that point in. Yeah, we get them to go and research the brand, to come back with their feedback. What do they like about the brand? What makes them feel that this is somebody they could work for? If they don't show that passion, it's just forget it, basically. So that's number one. You can test skill sets. That's what we do during the interview process. But the main thing is, yeah, I really like, why do you like, what can you see about them? You know, I could see myself wearing it, or this or that, whatever it may be, but they've got to have that passion first and foremost.
Amazing. Happy with that? Thank you. Anyone else like to ask a question at all? You want to? Go for it. It's okay. It's only us. You sure? Not at all? Would you like to ask a question over there? Pretending like you're not looking at me. Do you want to ask a question? No? Can I ask a question? Oh, no. We'll come to you first.
Hi, my name is Alba. I'm part of a jewelry business abroad, and I came here just for the fair. I work for a jewelry brand, obviously, so but it's kind of in the fashion as well. I would like to know what kind of questions would you ask in the first interview, like the main bullet points, basically.
So I talked about earlier what we call competency-based questions, which you could probably look up online to some extent because they are quite generic. So the first thing I do is establish why they've applied. You know, it is again quite generic, but you know, why are you sitting in front of me almost? What makes you interested in us as a brand? Why have you chosen? So if, for instance, if you're a jewelry brand, they may go, oh, I love jewelry, I've always been interested in jewelry, I made it since I was a kid, which is great, good, they've got a passion for jewelry. But it doesn't answer the question, why are they sitting in front of you? So have they researched your brand? Have they gone out of the way to what makes your brand special? What makes your brand different? And you want to hear that from a candidate. If they haven't bothered to look up your brand, or they can't think of something that they particularly like about it, my suspicion is you shouldn't, you know, that's them pretty much blown out the water in the first 5 minutes. Once you've got to that point, okay, give me examples. If you're looking for someone who's, an area salesperson, for instance, give me an example of, successes you've had in the past of attaining new business, for instance. And you want them to very carefully, very clearly get across to you how they've got that success. Yeah, well, I managed to get this new account on and they're brilliant. They're doing 50 grand a year. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. In fact, you probably don't believe them when they tell you that. Yeah? You've heard it. I can see you've heard it all before, right? So it's really about, right, what I did was I looked at this other brand who's our biggest competitor. What stores are they in? I then approached all those stores and said, and basically managed to, maybe in a brochure that I attached, showed them that we're offering better quality products at a better price. Called up the MD afterwards, got myself an appointment, got in there. We started off really small. I sold them, 5 rings to begin with or whatever, and just said, look, get this in the shop window, give us a chance because I know our product's really going to sell. Typical sales approach. But he gives you that story, he paints you a story. They paint you a story of how they went about securing that business. And as they paint you that story, you believe it, you can understand, you can see the person doing it. Now, if they're giving you that story and you can understand it and you know it rings true, you've got a good candidate. If they just bluff their way through it, not so good.
Amazing, thank you. Would you like to ask anything else? Yeah, good. Anyone else like to ask a question at all? Yeah, coming over. Ian, you look quite good from over there, you know.
Thank you.
You look very tanned.
It must be the lights.
I know. Been on holiday recently?
Not for a while.
Oh, busy recruiter.
Yeah.
It's a question to Ian. Obviously, I listened, and yes, you have got a lot of experience, many years in the fashion industry. But I'd like to ask you a question. Transferable skills of people who have not got the experience in the fashion industry, but are experienced in the field that they're in.
Yeah.
They could be university people. They could be like me, who's been in aerospace all my life.
Wow.
I have been one of the guys that made the Concorde fly. And I know a lot of people are interested of changing to go to the fashion industry. There's new materials. Fashion industry requires somebody who's completely naive as far as fashion is concerned. What is your answer to that?
It is difficult because there are barriers sometimes to people who aren't already in fashion or can show a passion for it. If you're talking about highly technical, which if you're from the aeronautical industry, I would suspect you are, so highly technical roles with particular experience, I don't know, in testing textile strengths and things like that, which is very particular, then I would think that manufacturers who are looking for someone to help them develop that area would be interested. We always look for transferable skills, but so for instance, if we look at something like supply chain, you could be a supply chain coordinator. You don't have to have been in fashion. If you're in FMCG or something similar, then we would look at those candidates. Our job sometimes is to persuade the client that they should look for those transferable skills, that don't limit yourself to just somebody who is, as I said, a unicorn who's done this, done that, done the other, comes from here, 20 years experience there. Yeah, absolutely, that's nice and easy. So yes, if we can widen, our job is to try and widen that funnel, if you like, as much as possible. Sometimes we meet with resistance, sometimes we're successful. We'll always look, we'll always chat. Recruitment consultants, if you think you see something, my advice, if you're looking to transfer across, is if you see an advert, you see a job, you think, yeah, that's for me, pick up the phone, talk to the consultant or talk to the company, the internal recruitment team, and say, these are my skill sets, would that work for you? You will meet barriers. There are some people who don't have the imagination to be able to see it. There are others who just say, no, actually, in this case, we need that information. We need that experience. So it does vary. It's not always easy, but it can be done.
Happy with that? Oh, great, thank you. Anyone else would like to ask a question? I'd like to ask a question, actually.
Okay.
So what happens when a business uses a recruitment agency and they've paid $4,500 for the merchandiser and the candidate leaves after a couple of weeks? Have they lost their money?
No, would be the short answer. So we have a built-in refund system which runs over time. So if they left within 2 weeks, we either find them a free replacement or we just give them their money back, whichever was their preference.
Okay, and then during the process of you searching for a candidate, is there a charge for that?
No.
So
No.
when does a business charge a recruitment
As I
agency?
said, only when the person starts, we send an invoice, and usually there's a time on that invoice to pay, obviously. So they have enough time. I mean, if the candidate leaves after 6 months, there isn't usually a refund, though we would often, if that happened, it happens very rarely, we would say, okay, look, we might find you a replacement for a lesser fee or something. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, great. So you're literally working for free all the way up until the point where the candidate starts.
Yes.
What if your candidate doesn't get chosen and you've done all that work?
Tough.
Oh.
That's basically it. It's, I mean, that's the risk we take as a business. And we would love to have retained business, and everybody comes to us and says, right, here's £20,000, go find us a few people. But it doesn't work like that.
Oh, fine. Fair enough then.
Yep.
Any other questions at all before we wrap up? No? Well, look, big round of applause for Ian. You did an hour worth of talking. Did you have some water?
No, not yet.
Round of applause for Ian, everyone.
Thank
Ian
you very
Gerstein.
much. Thank you.
Where can people find you as well before you go?
Well, if there's our website, which is Mandeville Recruitment. I'm around here for the next couple of hours if anybody wants to grab me. And the easiest place, mandevillerecruitment.co.uk is our website, and you can send in a query, which is on the sign there.
Amazing. And I've been your host, Nayha. You can follow me at Nayha Official on Instagram. But thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.